All right, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, we want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rekakwadash. Giving double honors to the apostles and elders of great millstone. Shalom to the hopefully elect. Shalom to all the brothers out here laboring in this truth with sincerity. Shalom to the few sisters that watch. It's coming back with another lesson. Really, this is really a cautionary tale, to brothers, starting with myself first and foremost, and especially younger brothers, that's coming into this truth. I myself, have kind of had dealings, with this guy. When I first came into the truth, I was really about to join this camp. When I say this camp, I mean Sakari, and be, following GRLA Hebrew. Went to several of their camps. I think they had I don't know what they call it, but it's like a convention type thing where all the camps, come together. But of course I was on the other side, but and just by observing, man, you could see that these guys wasn't right. They wasn't right at all. You had Deacon Akar, grown man, riding in the middle of downtown Atlanta in the streets, going from lane to lane on the scooter, man. I witnessed this like a big kid. So I'm like, man, first of all, if you're gonna lead by example, that's the wrong type of example to lead by, man. You out there playing in the streets like a little kid, So you could see it wasn't any structure, no order, just really just a free fall, and you just had, one man at the top. But, with that being said, let's go to the book of St. John and chapter 4. And we're going to drop down to verse 38. Because, what it boils down to is respect. We all have elders, men that labored. We got men that labored for 40 years, man, in this truth, And if it, of course, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Shai, we were introduced to this truth. But Yahweh Shem Shai used these men to convey the message, for us. But, with that comes a certain amount of respect, reverence that you have, for these men, speaking, from Apostle Tahar on down, Apostle Gabar, Apostle Ramla, Apostle Rakar, and all the other elders, man, on down, So let's go to the book of John chapter 4 and verse 38. It says, I sent you to reap that whereon ye bestowed no labor. Other men labored, and ye are entered into their labors. So we have entered into the labors, of our apostles, man, and GRLA Hebrew came up under, our apostles too. But the thing about it, he was rebellious, man. He didn't want to fall in line and take orders, and this is a clear result of what you have, and this lesson is being inspired by that, bogus statement or whatever he put out, saying that Apostle Tahar, and the apostles said, yeah, it's okay to beat your woman, take your woman's money. Man, that's nonsense, I never heard anything like that coming out of our bishops, here in Atlanta, You never heard anything like it. Nothing like that, man. So, how about Shimei Shai? It's really gonna make an example. Gonna make a clear example out of these guys, man. They still don't have respect for Yahweh Shimei Shai. You've been put on display, man. The whole Israelite, pretty much the whole nation that knows about this truth knows about your situation, man. So you should have really just faded to black. Just fell in the abyss somewhere. Where Yahweh Shimei Shai is going to eventually send you anyway. But your problem is you were too engulfed in the world. So this is the book of 1 John chapter 2 and verse 15. It says, love not the world, neither the things that are in the world. If any man love the world, the love of the Father is not in him. It says, for all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh, man, got you. The lust of the flesh got you. It says the lust of the eyes and the lust of the pride of life is not of the Father, but is of the world. And the world passeth away, and the lust thereof. But he that doeth the will of Yahweh Shimei Shai abideth forever. And you refuse to do the will of Yahweh Shimei Shai, man. You too involved in yourself. Your head got bigger, than your personality got bigger than the truth, which is crazy, man. So, this is just a depiction, that I came up with in Salakia, but, this man blatantly disrespects our elders, man, blatantly lies, and even outside of the truth, man, you got to look at the elders, man, apostles, man. They're up in age, So that alone, you should respect your elders, man. And more so in this truth, the men that taught you everything that you know, man, or everything that you knew to begin with. These are the men that inspired you to come into this truth, man. But yet and still, you were disobedient. Let's see. Let's go to the book of Revelation, chapter 3. And we'll start at verse 15. Revelation chapter 3 and verse 15. This is our Lord Yahushua speaking, man. This truth is a precious thing, man. This is something that you should hold near and dear to your heart, man. Because it hasn't been bestowed upon everybody. And this is the keys to life, man. Everlasting life. And when you play with it, and you show Yahweh Shimei Shai that you're not serious about it, then, you got to suffer the consequences, man. Yahweh Shimei Shai put that perverse spirit upon you, man. And that's just the only thing we know about. What about the other stuff, man? First of all, if you let somebody play back there, man, ain't no telling what you might do. Especially, penetrating, It's something that you liked about that penetration. Whether it was a female or whatever. Real men don't do that kind of stuff, man. That's just the bottom line. So this is the book of Revelation chapter 3 and verse 15. It says, I know thy works, and thou art neither cold nor hot. I would thou wert cold or hot. So then, because thou art lukewarm and neither cold nor hot, I will spew thee out of my mouth. And that's what happened. Yahweh Shemai Shah spews you out, Deacon Hakai out, Brother Hassad and you know, the whole Sakari got spewed out, man. Y'all ain't even around no more. You know, and I remember some of the guys that was about to cross over, you know, at the time that I was around. Man, you don't even see these guys no more, you know. And I think one of the guys was like an ex-football player, you know, and he was around, you know, and it was strictly about money, man. You know, that was about money for sure. You know, you see this guy, you know, all of a sudden, GRLA Hebrew, you know, he graduated financially, you know. Yeah, I think, yeah, that's clearly what it was about. Because, you know, this particular guy, I don't even know his name, but, you know, he was trying to cross over when I think he came around after I did. But he ended up being like GRLA Hebrew's right-hand man, you know. So I know that was strictly about money, man. That was about money. But nevertheless, he ain't around either. And then none of these guys end up teaching, man. You know, it was no order really. So let's go to 1 Timothy chapter 5. Verse 17, because this is a problem. It says, let the elders that rule well be counted worthy of double honor. And you had, you know, men saying, oh, the apostles, they don't deserve no double honors. I ain't saying no double honors. It might have been Eleazar, you know, that said that. But I know, you know, I heard that, you know, coming from some guys. And matter of fact, whoever said it, they ain't around no more. So it says, this is the book of 1 Timothy chapter 5, verse 17. It says, let the elders that rule well be counted worthy of double honor, especially they who labor in the word and doctrine. You know, you guys got away from the doctrine, man. You know, like I say, your personality got bigger than the truth. Personality got bigger than the truth. And Yahweh Shem Shai showed you that you're not bigger than the truth, man. You've been put out there, man. You've been put out there, man. You know, you shouldn't have nothing to say, man. You know, when people think of you, man, they think of you bent over with your cheeks spread open, man. Close your mouth, please. Just be quiet, man. And Deacon Hakar, man, clearly, you know, you like one of them guys that looked up to pimps and players and said, I wanted to be that. Then you find an avenue knowing that people in this truth are vulnerable. You know, some people are ready for the taking, man. Looking for a way out, looking for a way. So you pretty much preyed on people, man. But how about Shemal Shah got you up out of here too? So, you know, hey, and we knew this would happen, man. We knew it was going to happen. It was just a matter of time. You know, how about Shemal Shah got you on full display as a bozo, you know, in his truth, man. You out of here. And Lord willing, Yahweh Shem Shah keep me in the faith, man. I'm not, you know, like, hey, like I say, man, this lesson is a cautionary tale, you know, for me, you know, first and foremost. But this is the book of Ecclesiastes chapter 6. And let's drop the verse 34. You know, brothers have done lessons, you know, a bunch of brothers have done lessons on this guy. But this is the book of Ecclesiastes chapter 6. Let's go to verse 34. It says, matter of fact, yeah. It says, stand in the multitude of the elders and cleave unto him that is wise. You know, you should have stayed around, man. You should have stayed around with Great Millstone. You wouldn't be in this situation, man. You know, clearly you wouldn't. You know, but hey, when you want to be the man, that's what happened. You gotta take the things that come with being the man. That's why you gotta respect, give double honors to the apostles and elders, man. That have labored all these years, man. You couldn't even last 10, 15 years, man. How about Shimei Shot got you up out of here, man. But anyway, this is just a quick lesson. Hey man, we ain't trying to spend too much time on these guys, man, because they ain't gonna be around long. It'll be probably 6 months. You won't even hear from. You won't even. You'll be talking about, hey man, you remember that guy? All the guys that had came up against the apostles and elders, man. The Lord, that dude rapped the news. I remember he was scoffing hard. Out of here, man. Prince of the Power, scoffing hard. Out of here, man. And you guys still hadn't learned, man. But anyway, this was just a quick lesson through the spirit and power of Yahweh Hashem Yahushua, man. Lord willing, it was edifying. Want to constantly give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushua, Bahashem Rakakodash. Shalom.